We've had one manager firing this week, and if you're not ready to fire all your fantasy teams, we've got 20 pickups for you next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Get 15% off all RotoWire products at rotowire.com with code ROTO15. Today is the Saturday Fab Show. I am your host, Ryan Boyer, and filling in for Eric Halterman. This week, we got special guest Jason Collette, RotoWire contributor and all-around fantasy dynamo. Jason, do you have any Fab left, or did you empty your bank account on Chandler Simpson and Nick Kurtz?
Negative. I was outspent greatly on both guys, so yay. I do not have any crazy amounts of money spent. I think I'm above 500 in all of my leagues so far with money left, and I've tried, but I guess better judgment on some of these things, not going absolutely crazy. I remember talking last weekend with Eric Samolsky and Justin Mason on the Sleeper and the Bust about Kobe Mayo, and maybe it was like recency bias because I had just seen him play, and Norfolk had come here through Charlotte, and I was like, I don't see it. Sure enough, up down like the old man Simpson cartoon. Come in, hang your hat on the hat rack, and then walk right out and leave. That's Kobe Mayo.
Yeah, not working out for Kobe Mayo so far. And in Baltimore, I feel like speaking of managerial firings, Brandon Hyde might be next to go. The Orioles off to a rough start.
No doubt. I'm supposed to go to I'm going up to Camden Father's Day weekend
nice.
with Joe Sheehan's hosting something, and I'm going up there with somebody, my local commissioner, and then a couple of guys coming down from Jersey. And we were just in a text group today, like, is Hyde even going to make it to Father's Day weekend? And the collective answer was no, he's not.
Yeah. Speaking of Chandler Simpson, though, Jason is our resident Rays fanatic and expert. I want to get your read on the Rays outfield situation. Once Josh Lowe and Johnny DeLuca come back, how's that going to break down? Chandler Simpson going to stick around? Cam Misner's kind of fallen off a little bit. Looks like he might be on the chopping block eventually. What's your read on how that's going to shake out once everybody's healthy?
Yep, that's my read. Is Cam Misner's first to go, and with Lowe is imminently back. Like, he could be back at the start of, I don't remember if the Rays have a game on Monday, but I would expect him to be back this next scoring period. No, they're off Monday, so he could be going north with the team to Toronto. They're on the road all week with Toronto and the Marlins. Once that happens, I believe Cam's the one going down. DeLuca had a bit of a setback with his shoulder rehab, but once he comes back, if Simpson isn't showing some more consistency, it could be him at this point. I mean, James and Todd asked on the radio today, and we talked a little bit about it. Like, he's amazing on the bases, disruptive when he gets on base, but a lot of the contact, he is struggled to get it out of the infield. He seems to like hit it right at the pitcher sometimes, or we saw the great play in New York where he hit a ground ball to second and beat it out, and then scored from second on an infield single. Which is just nuts what he can do once he gets on base. And the defense it's hit and miss, to be honest with you. It's rough around the edges, but this is what you would expect from a guy with so little experience above AA, and even single A, because he was in both leagues last year. So there's still some things around it, but it's good that they're giving him the chance to try to do this now. He's had some really tough matchups. He had to face Max Fried. That wasn't fun. So it's like there are some things they're forcing him in there only because the team's looking for offense, because they've just been bad at home. I mean, just bad, unusually bad at home. And we'll see if this road trip this coming week at Toronto and at Miami can help shake some things. Especially the crazy part is you don't want him sent down in that Miami series. Miami can't throw out anybody. They are by far the worst team in baseball in controlling them running, and they've allowed over 70 steals already. Nobody else is over 50. So you want that series. You want that coming up. If you got 2 weekly lineup, Monday, Friday lineup, you want this series. You want Chandler Simpson up. You want him on base because he could steal. He could have 5 stolen bases in a game if he reaches base 3 times.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently sitting in first place in my RotoWire online league, and that's in spite of the fact that I'm dead last in stolen bases, and I spent a lot of fab on Chandler Simpson. So I'm hoping that he sticks around because I need those steals.
You're in first, I'm in second in mine. So yay us.
We're gonna get to our fab recommendations in a little bit, but first, as usual, we're gonna go over some headlines and unfortunately injuries. Typically lead off the show, and that's no different this week. Corey Seager was out of the lineup a second straight day on Friday. Tarek Skubal's on the mound for the Tigers, so the fact that he was out of the lineup that day, not so worrisome, but he was also out of the lineup Thursday, and he had just come back from a hamstring issue. I think he played in like 4 or 5 games, and now they're kind of resting it. I don't think, at least at last check, right before we went live, that the Rangers have released their lineup for the day. It seems like more of a precaution, more of a day-to-day thing with Corey Seager right now. But of course, he's got the injury history, a lot of it involving his lower half. So, what's your worry level with Corey Seager? I think we're going to be able to stick him in our lineups this next coming week. Hopefully it's a day-to-day situation and he's back today, but seems like maybe Josh Smith could handle shortstop for a little bit, maybe a little Blaine Krim at first base. What's your worryometer on Corey Seager?
It ramps up if he doesn't go in today's lineup. I mean, yesterday very much could have been like, I'm not 100%, but facing Tarek Skubal, I'm just going to go ahead and sit this one out. Skubal's strike. He's got a 50-1 strikeout to walk ratio lately. It's just insane what the guy's doing. So it's like, if Seager's back in the lineup today, then we can clearly look at it like a blue flu type of thing. And look at it like I'm not going in there against Skubal. So we'll see if where it is today. That worry meter would accelerate rapidly if he doesn't play today. Yeah. And then just have to kind of take a look and see where things are on Sunday. But it would be unusual for somebody to get 4 days off without backdating an IL stint. So check lineups later today. They're facing Jack Flaherty, and I would want to run to the bat rack to get in on that matchup, and then we'll see where it goes. But so far, I was just looking, and he's still not active. Yeah, but they don't have anybody on a lineup yet.
All right, another injury, another lower half injury. Andres Jimenez of the Blue Jays went on the IL with a quad issue. Looking like probably going to be Ernie Clement mostly at second base, filling in for Jimenez, and I guess Addison Barger is going to get probably extra reps at third base. He's also got a path to some playing time in the outfield as well. Yep. He's somewhat interesting, Addison Barger. The numbers have not been there this season, but he's got some crazy good batted ball data this year. His average exit velocity sample size isn't super high, but it's like over 95 miles per hour. He's got some tools, but hasn't really put it together in his chances at the major league level. But he could be interesting. Are we hanging on to Andres Jimenez? Are we waiting out this IL stint? He's got an OPS under 600 right now. Does have 3 home runs and 9 stolen bases, so it hasn't been a complete wash on from a counting stats perspective. But gosh, he got off to that great start the first couple of games, and then it was just dreadful in April. He was hitting cleanup for some reason early on, and he's been hitting a lot of ninth before going on the IL. So, are we going out of our way to hang on to Andres Jimenez, or are you okay cutting him if you're hard pressed for roster spots?
I am totally fine cutting him. I mean, maybe you, because you need all those steals in your league, because he had all 3 of those home runs were in March. He went homerless in April, and he had 1 steal. So he has 7 steals and 0 home runs, and a rather giant nothing burger of a. I want to pull up the exact numbers. He is hitting 173, 240, 200 since April 1st. Sayonara. Bye.
Yeah. The thing about Jimenez is he's just so good defensively. he's going to be in the lineup no matter how bad he slumps at the plate, and he could still give you those steals if he just plays. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm probably not going to lose sleep if I have to cut him, especially in those NFBC leagues where you don't have IL spots.
Exactly.
Another
Get him
injury
back if you need to, but there's no reason to IL stash and wait for him to come back.
Yeah. Another injury that popped up yesterday. Hayden Wiseski went on the 15-day IL with right elbow discomfort. He's kind of doing what Hayden Wiseski does, kind of shows flashes, spurts. He looks like he could be a mainstay in your mixed league lineups, but other times he's been a little shaky. We don't know the details as far as the severity yet. They're just saying right elbow discomfort so far. So we don't know how long he's going to be out. My questions are for you. One, are we hanging on to Hayden Wiseski if we can?
No.
And two, Ryan Gusto, I assume, is stepping in. Or do we have any deep league interest in him?
Yeah, I would say I've already have Gusto in one of my deep leagues. I was already taking a chance on him. I mean, Wiseski, I liked him as an upside chase coming into the season, but like you said, every time he gets off to a hot, you see the potential, but his body holds himself back. And this, the best case scenario, like he's not even eligible to come off the IL until the end of this month. And I'm a big proponent of always adding 2 to 3 weeks to a timeline for anybody. So now we're talking like close to Father's Day weekend. There's nothing in this skill set for me to say I need to hold on to that. And see, I'll just go find something else. And we can talk about, one of the guys that we're going to talk about today is somebody that I would pick up to replace Wiseski. Similar skill set, similar situation, but he's healthy. His elbow doesn't hurt. So I'll try to find the next Wiseski right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Moving on to non-injury headlines, wanted to get your take on the Pittsburgh closer situation. Of course, the managerial firing that I mentioned at the top of the show, that was Derek Shelton. And that makes it interesting to see how interim skipper Don Kelly handles the closer situation, especially in these next couple weeks. And lo and behold, on Friday, it looked like David Bednar was going to get his job back. He looked sharp his first couple appearances back from the minors. Then he pitched the 8th inning against the top of the lineup yesterday, and it was Dennis Santana came on, got the save. It was a very shaky save, but he did manage to lock it down. Mm-hmm. Are we thinking this is a committee? Is Kelly maybe going to go back to Santana, or are you just not terribly interested in either of these guys?
I mean, not terribly interested only because we're still talking about 1 save chance a week, maybe 2. So it's still that type of situation. And, I believe it's what you said. They brought Bednar in the face of the top of the lineup rather than say it's the 8th. We're bringing in this guy. It's the 9th. We're bringing in this guy. We're just seeing more of this across baseball where it's situation dependent on who's going to come in and do this situation. I like Bednar between the two of them, but again, we're still talking about 1 save a week, 4 to 5 a month. Unless you're in desperate, hopefully you don't need to worry about this, but it is what it is with this situation. They could trade both those guys and put somebody else in the situation too.
Yeah, I will say for the Pirates, if their pitching can be, well, certainly parts of it is already very good. Could be even better once they, bring up their other top pitching prospects, but they're so potentially good in their rotation and so bad offensively that they could play in a lot of close games that could lead to some extra save chances, even though they're not very good. So I do think it's worth keeping a close eye on. I'm with you that Bednar, I think, is still the guy to roster of the two, but need to keep a close eye on what Don Kelly does there, because the managerial change, we don't know for sure how that situation is going to shake out.
Right.
Now,
bullpen wise, looking at their pitch, going over to looking at the bullpen usage page, we see that Bednar and Santana have pitched on the same days, 15 and 14, 23 and 22. They've both thrown the same amount of pitches. essentially over the last 5 days. And it's like there's been a consistent. They're definitely the A bullpen, but it's like, you know, situation dependent with the new manager. Maybe Don Kelly is, maybe that's why he's the interim manager. He's got more of a forward thinking mentality with it. I mean, utility infielder Derek Shelton. I mean, he was a bench coach. He was a Rays bench coach and hitting coach before he became the Pirates manager. So I mean, he was indoctrinated, if you will, over in Tampa Bay on how to do this type of stuff. But yeah, really wasn't seeing that type of usage. He was more of a traditional bullpen manager, and we'll see where Don Kelly goes.
All right, let's get into our fab recommendations. I'm going to lead us off, and going to go with Kade Horton, one of those, I guess, the marquee prospect that came up this week, or is going to come up this week from a pitching perspective. He is not going to start today's game. That's going to be Brad Keller, who I'm actually going to talk about a little later. There's a tease for our deeper league recommendations, but all signs point to Kade Horton probably serving in a bulk relief role Saturday against the Mets.
Yeah.
Has been great this year at AAA Iowa, 1.24 ERA, 0.86 whip, over a strikeout per inning. The control has been better lately at AAA Iowa. He's got one walk in each of his last 3 starts there after showing some control issues early on. Injuries have been an issue for Kade Horton. Missed a lot of time last year with a shoulder problem. I think he initially got hurt in May, had a setback later in the year, didn't pitch till after late May, I believe. But he's been healthy this year, looking good. The stuff is really, really good for Kade Horton. I think it's reasonable to question how much of a workload he could handle. He's yet to reach 100 innings at the professional level. The control can wane at times. Also, what does his future look like in the rotation? The spot is open because Shota Imanaga is on the IL with a hamstring issue.
Ugh.
Don't think they're going to expect him to miss more than a couple starts. But, I mean, theoretically, Kade Horton could stick around if he pitches well. But I am interested, at the very least, in a speculative ad for Kade Horton, stashing him and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, the talent's definitely there, and you raised some valid points about him not having previous workload type of situation. I'm kind of actually more interested in this bulk situation. If Keller's going to come in and face the first 3 or 4 guys, and then Horton can take advantage of that Cubs offense that provides runs, that can get him some cheap wins. It's always fun. It seems like we're always trying to chase like the next Ryan Yarbrough, who won 16 games with some bad skills back in 2018 because the Rays used him as a bulk guy, and he just kept falling in. He had 16 of the club's 90 wins that year. Those are fun.
Yeah. Who you got, speaking of the Rays, who you got for your first pitching recommendation?
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about, like drop Wiseski, pick up Zack Latell. And like, I know the overall numbers aren't sexy, but it's a similar type of thing. Like his overall numbers got beat up early in the schedule, but his last 5 games, he's faced Boston, Arizona, the Padres, the Yankees, and Milwaukee. So 4 pretty good clubs. And he has allowed home runs on the road. He's only allowed 1 home run at home, but he's pitching 6, 7, 5, 6, 6. And he hasn't had a big blow up in this. His ERA over this is 3. He's just not getting the strikeouts. So it's a little bit of in a 15-team league, more comfortable in a 12 or a 10. The strikeout rate is low. He just doesn't pitch a strikeout. He pitches the contact. And the defense, aside from Junior Caminero, but Taylor Walls is one of the league leaders in defensive runs saved, and they're getting some good defense around Caminero. A type of situation, but Latell's pitched well. And I mentioned schedule wise, Latell's going to he gets the Blue Jays. Looks like he's going to miss the Marlins, but then he has the Astros and the Blue Jays again. And those offenses aren't lighting the scoreboard up right now. And so for the next couple of weeks, if you're looking to build, in fact, he may have the Astros and the Jays twice here over the next couple of weeks. And so if you're looking to try to, if you were streaming Wiseski and you're trying to find something, Latell could be somebody to take advantage for matchups the next couple of weeks while he's on this heater. That said, be quick to dump because he does have a limit and he's pitching well at the moment. He's just getting absolutely terrible run support. He's pitched well in this. He's got 2 wins and 2 losses despite a 3 ERA. So that's what you have. That would be my advice is next guy up, because I want to say his roster ability, he was somewhere below 25% when we were looking at this. And so Latell is a guy, or maybe he's 10% in Yahoo leagues. So that would be one of the options I would look at if you have Wiseski. And I mentioned, quick cut, find somebody else. This was the guy I had in mind.
Yeah, Latell, you worry a little bit about the home run concerns, especially in that home park, but he just walks so few. The control is just so good that that's a lot of solo shots, even if he gives up home runs. So
right.
I like the Latell recommendation. Good whip source there. Another pitcher recommendation. My next guy's gonna be Jameson Taillon.
Even after last night, huh?
Yeah, I did add him to this rundown before last night's start. It wasn't great against the Mets, but he's had just a brutal schedule at the beginning of the season. And I know we can't throw out the Mets start, but prior to that, he kind of withstood that brutal schedule, put up some solid numbers: 3.86 ERA, 103 WHIP, 31-8 strikeout to walk rate over 39 2/3 innings. And the baseball gods, schedule gods, are going to smile upon him after enduring this brutal schedule, because his next 3 starts in May projected to be the Marlins twice and at home against the Rockies. So that's a favorable schedule for Jameson Taillon coming up. Not a great strikeout source. He's got a 20.2% strikeout rate over the last 4 seasons, but like Zack Latell, throws a lot of strikes. He's a good whip bet. Good wins bet on that good Cubs offense, especially when he's facing lineups like he's about to face in the upcoming schedule. Not a super high upside play, but I like Jameson Taillon as a floor play.
Yeah, I made a trade for him in one of my reset league, 15-team reset league. Guy was looking for steals. I traded him Jose Altuve and Tim Tawa, and I got back Gavin Sheets because I really wanted that Colorado series this weekend, and that got off to a nice start, and Jameson Taillon, but I threw him on my lineup. Then one of my friends lives in New York, season ticket holder for the Mets, and he's like, man, I hope you don't have Taillon on one of your fantasy teams because he's getting rocked. And I'm like, yep, sure do. Just traded for him. All right, but like I said, I agree with you. I'd like the upside, just mentioning with the Cubs offense and their winning record, and Taillon normally doesn't get himself into trouble, but the Mets are just, there's no more LOL Mets this year. They are just putting some hurting on some teams offensively at times.
Yeah, they are. Next pitching recommendation, also more of I think it's safe to say, more of a floor play than a ceiling play. But who's your next guy?
Yeah, going along the whip route is Tomoyuki Sugano. We won again last night against the Angels, and he's starting to overcome. Early on, he just wasn't striking out anybody. Then he had that 8 strikeout game against the Yankees, and I'm looking over his last 5. He's got 21 strikeouts and 32 innings. Still very low ceiling there, or low ceiling with that. But he doesn't get himself into trouble. He has 3 walks against 21 strikeouts, and he's been able to win 3 of his last 5 starts. So again, like Latell advice, look at it on a week by week basis. But if you're in a league where you have enough strikeouts, you can take a chance on this. He's pitching well. Enjoy the heater, but be quick to dump, because what we saw early on was kind of scary. I mean, I have him in an 11-team. I drafted him in an 11-team AL only keeper league, and I was about ready to, after the first couple of starts, I was like, yeah, what am I doing here? But then I held on to him. And obviously, the 8 strikeout game against the Yankees helped. Like, okay, you're fine. And I was watching the game last night when I got home from watching Jesus Mate play here in Carolinas. And liked what I saw from Sugano again. So one of these things where enjoy it. I know that there's limitations to what he's capable of, but in the meantime, enjoy it.
Yeah, one of the Baltimore offseason acquisitions that is going well, because there wasn't too many of them. I'm going to go with a little more of an upside play here with my next recommendation. Ryan Weathers is going to come off the IL next week. Unfortunately, that aforementioned Cubs offense that we talked about is who he's going to face his first start back. So maybe give him 1 start to see how he looks before throwing him into your lineup. But I do like the upside of Ryan Weathers. Dropped, I believe, 20 pounds over the offseason. And sometimes when you do that, you can lose velocity, but he actually gained velocity. He drew some buzz during spring training because that velocity was up. Unfortunately, then went down with a flexor strain. But he's made 3 rehab starts and looked great. 2 runs allowed, 13-4 strikeout to walk rate over 10 2/3 innings. His last rehab start averaged 97.8 miles per hour, touched 99. The stuff was looking good for Ryan Weathers. Showed signs of a breakout last year at times. Cut his walk rate down, which had been an issue during his time with the Padres. That was down to 6.5% last year with the Marlins. Seems like he's been around forever, but he's still just 25. So maybe this is a post-hype sleeper situation. Don't know how many wins he's going to get on the Marlins, but if Ryan Weathers can stay off the IL and keep those walks down, I like him as a pickup.
Yeah, talent's there. I just wish it was a better surrounding situation.
Yep. Who we got as your next? We're going to move into hitters next. Who's your first hitter recommendation?
So first hitter for me, because I was surprised how low he was rostered in Yahoo leagues, was Brooks Lee with Minnesota. Multiple position eligibility. We know he can hit. There's limitations to the overall skill set, but hitting for average is not one of those. And so I know right now the batting average isn't where you would want it to be, but he's been hitting in the middle of that Twins lineup. And so as long as he's getting this kind of everyday playing time and he has that kind of bat to ball skills and what's possible, I'm very interested in him, especially if I can use him in multiple places. So if you were still holding on to Andres Jimenez because of the overall skills, like this is a guy to replace if you're trying to make up that batting average that Jimenez was cost you for a few weeks. But I was just surprised to see single digit ownership for a guy that's in the lineup every single day and not hitting in the bottom of the lineup doing it.
Yeah, that multi-position eligibility too certainly comes in handy, especially if you're dealing with those injuries with Jimenez or another infielder. I'm going to go to the outfield for my first hitter recommendation. Evan Carter, back in the big leagues, get another shot with the Rangers after they moved on from Leody Taveras. Got off to a really slow start at AAA Round Rock, but over his last 12 games there before his promotion, 271, 327, 500, a couple of home runs, 3 stolen bases. Still just 22 years old, Evan Carter. Of course, he starred down the stretch in 2023 with the Rangers and during their World Series run. At his best, he gets lots of walks. He's got some power, plenty of speed. Has had strikeout issues, particularly at the major league level. Mm-hmm. Cannot hit lefties at all. I expect that he's going to be platooned. And what is the back issue going to be? It seems like it's going to be a chronic thing that he's never quite going to be able to shake. So we don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy over the long haul, but still a lot of talent there, and he's still widely available. So I like the idea of taking a shot on Evan Carter if you're dealing with injuries elsewhere.
Talent's there. Hopefully the back is, that's it's always a scary thing for me is we know hitters are nothing without their foundation. Jorge Polanco showed us that last year, and look what he's doing this year now with a healthy knee. But that back core area is the next most important part of that swing. And if you don't have full flexibility, if you've got any problems there, it's going to affect the rest of that kinetic chain. And all of a sudden you become a slappy instead of a guy with the potential pop.
Speaking of talent being there, who is your next hitter recommendation?
Yeah, I figured I had to go big, go bold. So I have Joe Adell because Joe Adell is so streaky. If you've ever had him, you know what we saw it last year before he got hurt, just how much of a streak the guy can get on when he has the chance. And the reason I was like, you look at some things, like we had a pretty rough month of April. I was looking at this morning, 2 home runs, 14 RBIs somehow, but 23 strikeouts to hit 175. But then so far here in May, he's hitting 235. He's got 2 home runs and he only has 4 strikeouts and 17 plate appearances. That's good for Joe Adell. And you look at the Angels and they're dealing with injuries. They called up Gustavo Champano and he got hurt the first 1 or 2 days into the call up. And so he's out. They had some guy last night, Mike Rios, who slipped on his first batted ball. They called him in as a defensive replacement, and he allowed Kenley Jansen allowed a single because he slipped. The defender slipped. So I never got to see the guy hit. But Adele should be in that lineup. Yeah, he's going to hit bottom, but we've seen him get on these heaters before. And when I'm seeing this type of improvement, like he's raised his batting average 55 points this month already because he's making a little more contact. So try to get ahead of early and see if something's there. I have not looked at the Angels schedule to see if there's a benefit there. But Adele, we know what he's capable of when he gets on these heaters. And that's why I figured, take a chance because he is out on a lot of free agent list.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alec Burleson, my next recommendation, kind of the other end of the spectrum because he's really good from Joe Adele. He's really good at making contact. Got off to a slow start, Alec Burleson did, but this week homered in back-to-back games, then had a big 2-run double off of Paul Skeens in the Cardinals comeback win earlier this week. Had made 6 straight starts prior to having a day off on Friday. Started 8 of the last 10 games for the Cardinals. Elite in terms of strikeout rate, as I mentioned, above average, quality of contact. He's, I think, fair to say more of a floor play. I don't know what the ceiling is going to look like with Alec Burleson. Certainly doesn't offer anything in terms of speed. But because he makes so much contact and it's generally pretty hard contact, pretty good bet for average. He cleared 20 home runs last year. I think he could reach that again even after the slow start. Eligible at first base, eligible in the outfield. Not super exciting, but I think Alec Burleson should still be rostered, especially in your 5 outfielder leagues.
Yeah,
your final hitter recommendation?
Yeah, I do.
Outfielder, but also a more bereft of talent fantasy position as well.
Yeah, it's, when I look at this, I was just surprised to see Hunter Goodman still out there in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues. I mean, this is a guy that's hitting cleanup every single day. You look at the lineup and he has hit clean. When he's in a lineup, he's hitting cleanup. And there isn't a lot to celebrate in Colorado this year. They're 6-32 and holy crap, are they bad. But Hunter Goodman's good. And this was one of those chances we didn't know who was going to make that catching situation coming back in draft season. I remember taking Goodman in like the 27th, 28th round of a couple of drafts because he was still sitting there. And I'm like, I'm just going to take the chance because we know what the pop it every year Colorado produces something like this. A couple of years ago, it was Nolan Jones. Last year was Brenton Doyle and a little bit of Michael Toglia. And it's like this year, if they're going to have a success story, this appears to be the guy. And like you said, this is catcher. And even in a 1-catcher league, I'm struggling to think of 12 catchers that are better than what Hunter Goodman's potential is. Hitting cleanup, even for a terrible team, he's still hitting, and he's hitting for average, and he's got pop. I'm just trying to put together, like, who are 12 catchers that I would rather have over Hunter Goodman right now, and I can't come up with 12.
Yeah, I'm a guy who generally likes to wait at catcher, even in 2-catcher leagues, and a couple of them I wound up waiting and getting both Ivan Herrera and Hunter Goodman on rosters, so I'm feeling pretty good about that decision to wait in those leagues. We're going to move on to our deep league pitcher ads. I'm going to lead us off with Aaron Savale, who made a rehab start, I believe Thursday, went 4 scoreless in that rehab start, pitched well down the stretch for the Brewers last season, 3.53 ERA over 14 starts. He's a pretty good whip bet because of that control. Strikeouts are up and down, generally fairly middling as far as Aaron Savale goes. But when he does put the ball in play, the good news is the Brewers have a really good defense behind him. It's not a high upside play, and that's why he's in the budget recommendation section. But Aaron Savale is out there available in a good number of leagues. And if you're looking for some rotation filler, I think he's a viable option.
Yeah, indeed. We know what he's capable of with the high spin on his breaking ball. Milwaukee normally is able to take these kind of castaways from other teams and get the most out of them. I mean, they got Tobias Myers pitching today. That was somebody who bounced around several organizations and then was able to get in and has shown flashes of really nice talent from Milwaukee. So I'm excited to see what Myers is able to do today in his revenge game because Tampa Bay was one of those former organizations. That said, that's also the guy that they traded to Cleveland to get Junior Caminero. So, not too bad for that return, but I do want to see what Myers can do today against Tampa Bay.
You got a Boston Red Sox for your first budget pitcher recommendation. Who are we talking about?
Yeah, I have Hunter Dobbins, and this was somebody that I had down even before last night. Dobbins pitched some excellent shutout baseball yesterday in an excellent no decision, but he's kind of been the up down guy for them. But the overall numbers when he has been getting in the rotation have been very impressive. And when we're looking at ownership rates again, I'm just surprised to see even in TGFBI, he was a 33% owned. That's going to be going up considerably this weekend, especially after watching how he pitched against Kansas City. And it's a different situation. Kansas City's got this great record, but they haven't had this great offense. I mean, they are one of 3 teams that have 7 home runs from the entirety of their outfield. It's just a crazy situation. How bad that outfield has been. That said, I like what I've seen from Dobbins. I did not watch his game last night, but I have watched one of his other games and liked what I saw. And with that Boston offensive support behind him and whatnot, this roster percentage needs to grow considerably this weekend.
I mentioned my next recommendation a little bit earlier in the show. Brad Keller, kind of a blast from the past, and he is making. We assume it's going to be an opener situation today and against the Mets, but Keller's kind of interesting again. Made a mechanical adjustment that has led to a big velocity jump. He's averaging 97 with his fastball now, touching 100 miles per hour. Out of that Cubs bullpen, got knocked around in that crazy game against the Dodgers at Wrigley Field when there was a ton of runs scored. But otherwise, if you eliminate that one appearance, he's got a 1.65 ERA, whip just over 1, 18-4 strikeout to walk rate, over 16 1/3 innings. He's got 4 holds so far. He's been pitching in high leverage. Ryan Presley has not looked good. Porter Hodge, I think, is definitely next in line, but if Craig Counsell does want to keep him in more of a fireman role, I think Keller could potentially get a look at some saves, or maybe they stretch him out as a member of the rotation. I don't know if that's going to happen right away. As I mentioned earlier, Kade Horton, fully expect him to eat the bulk of the innings today, but Keller is somewhat interesting again. I know it's been a while since Brad Keller has done anything at the major league level, but we got to be open to when these pitchers make mechanical adjustments and suddenly see their stuff jump up, especially in short bursts out of the bullpen. So, if you've got a deep league roster spot, I think Brad Keller is somewhat interesting.
And I would say, to a couple things, I like everything you said about Keller. It's like, but what I don't want to see is I don't want to see Chicago be like, let's put him back in the rotation. Like he made mechanical changes, but can he use those mechanical changes over 75 plus pitches? Can he throw with this velocity that's made him look good if he's going 70? I mean, I'm looking at his pitch count. He threw 19 pitches Tuesday, 14 on Wednesday, and he hasn't pitched since. So like today, probably another 20 pitches to see how he goes. But that was the problem with Keller previously, is he would be good one time through. And then the second time through, it was like, and things would fall apart quickly. It's like some guys are meant for the bullpen. Louis Varland's another classic example. Louis Varland stunk as a starter, but Louis Varland is touching 100 as a reliever for Minnesota. It's like sometimes set these guys up for success, and Brad Keller going back to the rotation would be the exact opposite of that.
You got a former Cub for your next recommendation. Who are we talking about?
Yeah, Mark Leiter Jr., because a couple things caught my attention. For one, he's throwing harder. Like his average fastball velocity has taken a 2% jump, a 2 mile an hour jump this year. And he's still a splitter first type of guy. But then when you look at that Yankee bullpen and how they've had to shuffle around the roles, Weaver's now closing. Leiter steps into Weaver's role, and Devin Williams is toiling in obscurity. But Weaver was doing really well in that 8th inning role when he was not closing over the last, since he made his mechanical changes and whatnot. So Leiter intrigues me because he still gets strikeouts. The Yankees are still doing well. They're still playing those leverage games, and Leiter already has 2 wins and a save this season. So in an AL league, I'm not in a 15 team. I get it, unless you are still trying to find something. But I put this one out there for those who also play in AL only leagues, because I play in a few of those, and I have Leiter on all of them. Because I like what I've seen. I like the role here, and I'm looking, do I want to take a chance on a crappy starter, or do I take a chance on a reliever that's getting me strikeouts and about the same as that crappy starter, and see what else falls into place.
Yeah, speaking of crappy starters turned good relievers, my next recommendation, Graham Ashcraft, looking good out of the Reds bullpen. Not so much of late. He's kind of had 2 clunkers over his last 3 appearances, including a blown save his last time out. But overall numbers are looking good. He's got an ERA below 3, 19 strikeouts, over 18 in the third innings. He's always just kind of seemed like a guy who's destined for the bullpen eventually. And not only is his stuff playing up even more in a relief role, but he's just been really good at avoiding hard contact. 99th percentile he's ranks in an average exit velocity, 89th percentile in barrel rate. And not only is he missing more bats in a relief role, he's still getting tons of ground balls. He ranks in the 97th percentile in ground ball rate. So I think Graham Ashcraft is in the role he was meant to be in for a while now. Just really don't trust Emilio Pagan to hold on to that job over the long haul. Obviously, Alexis Diaz is out of the picture right now, so I like the idea of stashing Graham Ashcraft in your deeper league if he's still available.
We were talking off air about closer stashes in the winter. Ashcraft was one of the guys that I had taken myself in 2 drafting holds because I thought that this could potentially happen. Yep. I mean, Pagan, we all know Pagan's capable of doing things, but Pagan's also capable of serving up home runs in a hurry. And as things heat up in Cincinnati, that is going to become a problem. And Ashcraft, like I said, setting these guys up for success, and the bullpen was, you could, the first time through was always, if you had them, you could see, oh yeah, this is good. And then, so, set them up for this success. And this was a guy that I had drafted in drafting holds as a stash situation. And so I'm glad to see he potentially gets a shot here. But again, it's kind of like, it's almost playing out like the Pittsburgh situation. Maybe it's 2 save chances a week instead of 1.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready to go on to our deep league hitter recommendations. Jason is going to lead us off with a guy who's pretty interesting and ripping the cover off the ball in the minors. And it looks like he's going to get called up. Maybe he's officially already been called up, but who's your first guy?
Yeah, so the good news is he's 100% available because nobody has Tim Elco in a league right now. And Tim Elco is, somebody in the White Sox system, came out of Ole Miss. If you look at James Anderson's top prospect list by team, you're not going to find Tim Elco on there because he's a big right-handed first base only type of hitter. That said, he is also a good one. I've seen him play probably 25 games between the Kannapolis, so the low A and the triple A affiliates of the White Sox are here within an hour of my house. And so I go to games. And so I've seen a lot of Tim Elco. And even when some friends of mine, we went to one of the Charlotte games against Norfolk last week. And mainly because one of the other guys is a big Orioles fan who wanted to see Colby Mayo. And I'm like, we're watching and I'm like, Tim Elco looks a lot better than Colby Mayo right now. And I'm kind of surprised that the White Sox haven't given this guy a chance because, like you said, he's been hitting the cover off the ball in Charlotte. And that's pretty much what he did with Kannapolis as well. And it's not like Andrew Vaughn was doing anything. I mean, the bar is here. And this is my hand on my laptop. The bar is here. That's all Elco's got to do is have 2 hits in a game. And he's already the best first baseman that they've seen this year. So, but he can hit. And so would intrigue me to see, and honestly, this should be a call up to stay up. I don't see this as an up down type of thing. This should be a call up to stay up because there's not much that Elco has left to prove. He's pretty much shown, I can hit minor league pitching. And he's doesn't have a defensive future. No, he's not Paul Konerko, but that's the kind of body type we're talking about. Just a big dude that's going to play some first base and can punish some baseballs, especially mistakes. So I'm intrigued to see where this is. I would take a chance on a 15 team. I'm not a 12 team yet, but a 15 team, absolutely. AL only. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the fab bids for Elco are this weekend. As you mentioned, there's a chance he's more of a 4A type player, but I mean, if you believe in that bat and the opportunities should certainly be there, then he could generate some.
Yeah. Don't go all Nick Kurtz, folks. I'm not talking about that, but
another guy who does play some first base, also some outfields where he's been stuck for most of this season. Zach DeZenzo getting a lot more playing time of late with the Astros. 12 starts over the last 16 games for Houston. And he's picking it up offensively over that stretch. 325, 400, 500 are his slash lines. 1 home run, 4 doubles, and a stolen base over that span. Hits the ball hard. Zack DeGrom has got a 13% barrel rate so far during his time in the majors. Also kind of sneaky fast, 77th percentile in sprint speed. He had a 22 stolen base season back in 2023 in the minors, and he's hit throughout the minors, 295, 377, 499 on the farm with Houston. And I'm not really sure what the Astros are doing with Cam Smith right now. He's been sitting quite a bit. Feels like they might be preparing him to go back to the minors. And if that's the case, then Zack DeGrom could take over as the everyday right fielder for the Astros. Or if the Yordan Alvarez thing drags on longer than expected, maybe Jose Altuve is playing more in the DH spot. That opens up another spot and potentially in left field. So I think the at-bats could be there for Zack DeGrom, and there's some upside with that, with his bat.
Yeah, absolutely like that call. I mean, he's had the numbers throughout the minors. I know in XFL last weekend, Jeff Erickson took him in the reserve. We have a monthly fab. We don't have a weekly. We have monthly. He took him right before I was going to take him. So,
yeah,
with that,
you hate it when that happens. You got another Astro for your next guy.
Yeah, I want to stick with Brendan Rodgers. So he was in, if you read not the most recent installment of Collect Calls, but the one prior, I mentioned this. He's shown increased bat speed this season, and he's worked with the Astros hitting team, hitting coaches to get some more loft in his swing and get the ball off the ground. But his bat speed has gone up about 3 miles an hour, which is notable. And then he hit a home run the other day to the opposite field, his first non-pull home run in 3 seasons. And I read an article this week, and they were talking about the changes that he's making. And then somebody yesterday, Mike Petriello, hinted, like Baseball Savant, that they're getting ready to launch some new stat next week, and Rodgers is popping off the page on that one too. So we'll like to see what's happening there. But you look under the hood data, and you go to his Baseball Savant page, and you see, a barrel percentage in the 86th percentile, hard hit 90th, sweet spot 95th, bat speed 82nd, average exit velocity 75th. That's some of the best stuff we've ever seen from Brendan Rodgers, who at one time was one of the best prospects in baseball. So I'm intrigued to try to get in on the front end of this because of late he's been hitting well. Even if you look at his rolling charts and see where things are going, he's on that roller coaster up climb, that click, 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 click. And maybe eventually a fall comes again, but he is trending in a nice direction for somebody that was an afterthought, even for Major League. Because remember, Rodgers was a very, very late signee to the Astros this spring.
Yeah, and on a minor league deal as well. Wouldn't that be such a Rockies thing if Brendan Rodgers leaves Coors Field and finally we get that breakout season from Brendan Rodgers? So Rockies. Another guy who was formerly a pretty highly thought of prospect at one time back in his Braves days, but Drew Waters is seeing increased reps in the Kansas City outfield and doing well so far. Started all but 2 games since April 16th. It's got a 297, 350, 446 slash line with 1 homer and 3 stolen bases over that stretch. Waters has major strikeout problems, but always been kind of a power speed guy. You look over his 163 games at the major league level, got 14 home runs and 19 stolen bases. And as Jason mentioned earlier in the show, that Kansas City outfield is not great. So the opportunity is there for Drew Waters to stake claim to everyday playing time. He's kind of been bouncing around to all 3 outfield spots. It's going to be lots of peaks and valleys, and he could be in AAA in a couple weeks. I fully acknowledge that, but he's got some power, he's got some speed, and the opportunity should be there. So if you're in a deeper league, I like the idea of giving Waters a shot.
And I don't know who this player would be for you, but like Drew Waters is one of those guys. When I watch him play, I want him on my favorite baseball team. Because I've seen Drew Waters play a couple of times, and I'm like, I love that swing. And I look at the numbers, I'm like, why is he not better? Because when you see him, he plays great outfield defense. Like you said, moves well, has a great looking swing. And it's like, okay, change of scenery. Maybe somebody gives him a chance, something will happen. But like, he is on that very short list of guys that I watch play. And I'm like, I want that guy.
We're going to stay in the AL Central for our final hitter recommendation. Who you got, Jason?
I've got Daniel Schneeman of the Guardians, and the funny story behind this is, so if you guys will recall, last week he had a grand slam in the 9th inning off of Yimi Garcia. Like, I'm sitting there working on my fab, and I have Schneeman already. I already have him in there, and I'm setting my bids, and then he hits that grand slam, and I'm like, oh crap! I had to go in there and adjust, and I still end up getting him, but it's like I was hoping to get him super cheap, and then he hits that grand slam, and I'm like, oh man, there goes that. But kind of like Rodgers, you look at the numbers, you're like, wow, something is here. And the Guardians have been giving him the opportunities, and he was cheaper this last weekend. I don't believe he'll be cheap this weekend. But as long as he's showing what he's showing right now with the Guardians, I'm very intrigued what could possibly be here. Like I said, I picked him up in 3 different leagues this past weekend, and I'm hoping to ride out a hot streak here.
Yeah, and been hitting second for the Guardians quite a bit of late during this hot streak, and certainly that multi-position eligibility comes in handy, especially in your deeper formats and your NFBC leagues where there's no IL spots. That will do it for our show. Appreciate all you guys checking it out and the commenters, and we will see you next week. Eric will be back with me for our Fab show next week, but in the meantime, appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you later.
Thanks all.